Good morning. I'm a half an hour late. I do apologize, but as they say in the culture, excusoscho betzidcha. My excuse is that I was preparing. It's really the truth. I was preparing. Um, we're doing Kufites, and as I've told you a number of times, it's both a labor of love and a labor. It's work. Last week I cheated. I broke my policy, and I spent 3 days on these tests, which is connected to Torah. Today we're going to do Ois Yud. Ois Yud is connected to Tshuva, to David HaMelech's Tshuva, the way I understand it. And the duality of the Pasuk, the complexity of it, is that David acknowledges that he did an Aveda. He takes responsibility for it. He wants to do Tshuva. But there are so many people who are, delighting in his sin. There's so many people who are so determined to use David HaMelech's Aveda to bring him down, that David HaMelech is afraid that they'll succeed. Not that they'll succeed, that they'll destroy his career, that they'll succeed in derailing his tshuva. In other words, if you're sincere, and there are people running around screaming that you're not sincere, they challenge your sincerity even more. And it seems that David HaMelech, in these 8 Pesukim, is recognizing the Zaydim. The Zaydim come up again and again and again. We had them in Ois Zayin, we had them in Ois Ches, I believe. The Zaydim. Zaydim means people who are sinning wantonly, intentionally, on purpose. As I told you repeatedly, Zaydim are not kleine kinder, Zaydim are not street children. Zaydim are Achtefel and Doyeg and other Gedeli Yisrael who lack the Midas HaEmes, who lack the Midas HaTmimus, who lack the Inyan HaBittel. And it disturbed them when they saw it in David HaMelech. And their reaction to the personality of David HaMelech was the need to destroy him, to bring him down. Now, in their minds, how do you say it? They were being honest. They were exposing the truth. But Kavanosam was not the Tzuya. They were not exposing the truth because that would be better for David HaMelech or better for the country. They were exposing the truth because they were mischaber b'klein chavera. And the Chazal say, mischaber b'klein chavera, ein lechelech le'olam haba. They were celebrating David's weakness. They were enjoying David's failure because somehow that brought them advantage. There's the famous story, it's a really wonderful little story, that the Rebbe Marash saw his children playing. The older son was the Razah, was shorter. The younger son, the Rebbe Rashab, was taller. So when they would play, the younger son had this business of being shorter than his older brother. So he would do is he had him dig a ditch or they walked on a hill, so that by the Rebbe Rashab being lower, the Razah was higher. So the story goes, that the Rebbe Marash saw this and he called in the 2 brothers and he told the Razah to get up on a chair. And when the Razah got up on a chair, he was told in the Rebbe Rashab. So the Rebbe Marash said, Otazeh, this is how you do it. If you want to be taller than somebody else, don't lower them, raise yourself. And some people are mischaber b'klein chavere. In order to make themselves better, they put another person down. And this way, they don't have to be better. You understand? And this seems to shape David HaMelech. And I believe, and I'm, so to speak, reading between the lines. Again, I'm repeating to you what I always tell you, that I prepared the Mefarshim, all the Rishonim, many of the Rishonim. I looked up a number of Mamar Chazal, a number of Gemaras, or Gemara Masechta Yuma, or Gemara Masechta Avodah Zarah. The Masechta Avodah Zarah is the Avdal Amud Beis of Yamar Aleph. The Gemara Masechta Yomos Daf Chaf Beis Amud Beis. I'm telling you these two Gemaras because these Gemaras are very, very important to these 8 Pesukim. All the Rishonim repeatedly quote from those Gemaras. And there are other Gemaras as well. That David did an Aveda with Bathsheba. And of course there's the whole question about what the Aveda was and what are other Avedas David had committed. I'm going to get to all this momentarily. But what's happening in these 8 Pesukim is that David is not shying away from his sin. David is concerned that the sinners, the Zaydim, the people who are enjoying the fact that he's sinned, who are using the opportunity of David HaMelech's failure, not to make themselves better, but to expose David HaMelech, to shame David HaMelech, to call David HaMelech sheker, a phony, disingenuous, as we've had a number of times before. This repeats itself again in these 8 Pesukim. Somehow, if they would destroy David HaMelech, the world would be a better place. In other words, if there's one Ish HaEmes, he makes the world more difficult for all the Anshe Sheker. If you can make the one Ish HaEmes into Sheker, then Sheker becomes Emes, or Emes doesn't have to be principle. And that's what David is concerned with. David is concerned that they will succeed in spiritually compromising him because of their efforts to bring him down. In other words, they're calling him Sheker. David is not saying he didn't do an Aveda. David is not saying he doesn't need to do Tshuva. But David is saying, I don't want to become the Sheker they're saying I am. I want to remain Emes. And David has an incredible barometer, an unbelievable barometer. And this barometer, Rabbi Sai, is the key to understanding his 8 Pesukim. The barometer is one word that repeats itself twice. That in my humble opinion, and again, all of you who come to these classes know that Shagiyas Mi Yavin, I try my best, which is limited, obviously, to learn these Pesukim and to feel the heart of the Pesukim and to give you a Nakuda. And as I've done so far, right, we've had this run. This is already Pasuk Yud, Yud. So Aleph was Tmimei Darach and Eitzrei Pikudacha, Beis was Nar, Gimel was Eved, Dal was Nefesh, Hey was Ekev, Vav was Emes, Zayin was Nachem and Zois, Ches was Chishafti, in the secondary way Yirah Shamayim, and of course Tes was Torah. The word that is the key to the Pesukim, and what I see as David HaMelech barometer, is the word Yireyecha. There are real people who are God-fearing. The Gemara calls them the Sanhedrin, the Rosh Sanhedrois, who in Pasuk Ayin Dalet, David HaMelech says, Yireyecha Yiruni v'Yismachu. Those who fear you have seen me and rejoiced. And then in Pasuk Ayin Tes he pleads, Yoshuvu liYireyecha v'Eidei Yisecha. Those who fear you should return to me because they abandoned him. They turned their back on David HaMelech. David HaMelech to the Ma'aseh Hashem. The Gemara says that instead he became a leper for 6 months. The Sanhedrin left him. And David HaMelech, in the beginning of these 8 Pesukim, describes the Yireyecha, these real people's involvement in David HaMelech because they saw him as Emes. And at the end of the 8 Pesukim, David HaMelech concedes that the Yireyecha abandoned me, and I'm hoping they'll re-embrace me. Why? Because that'll be a barometer. That'll be a test that the Zaydim, who are trying to expose my color, tries to expose my shame, and their interest is because somehow the world is a better place if you destroy any drop of emes. Their interest is Rishis. Their interest is emes Shek. And David says, I don't want to concern myself with them. That's not my department. It's their department. It's the Ibish's department. I want to ascertain, I want to guarantee that I should remain loyal to the emes, and the proof will be that Yeshuvu liYireyecha, that the God-fearing individuals who have abandoned me have returned to me. And that's how I see the 8 Pesukim. So the key word in these Pesukim, Ayin Gimel Til Pei, which is the letter Yud in the Tmanya Ape, and the 8 Aleph bases of Kuf Yotes is the word Yireyecha. It appears twice. It appears in Pasuk Ayin Dalet. Sorry. It appears in Pasuk Ayin Dalet, and it appears again in Pasuk Ayin Tes. That's the key word. And if I want to use a secondary word, it'll be the word boishis, shame, embarrassment. David is very ashamed, and he's very, very embarrassed. So Rabbi say, let's now do what we always do. Let's read the 8 Pesukim inside, and it's really impossible to read the 8 Pesukim inside without reading into it, at least what the Rishonim say, then I'll give you my introduction, and then we'll learn the 8 Pesukim with Hashem's help. So I'm reading Pasuk Ayin Gimel. Yadecha asuni, your hands made me. Vayachenununi, and you prepared me to be perfect, to be wholesome, to be of great promise. In other words, the Eibishter gave David HaMelech every opportunity to be what David HaMelech could have been. The Rishonim all talk about Vayachenununi means the special skill, the special character traits and tools that the Eibishter gave David HaMelech to be David HaMelech. Havineni, and I'm not going to translate Havineni as a verb. I'm going to translate Havineni as a noun. You made me somebody who's in a position to understand. You gave me the capacity to understand. Again, we're going to translate as a noun. You gave me the capacity to be one who could study your mitzvahs. And consequent to that, because of this, in Pasuk Ayin Daled says, Yereyecha Yeruni, those who fear you, the real Jews, saw me, v'yismachu, and they rejoice, ki lidevarecha yicholti, because to your words I hope, to your words I long, to your words I pray, to your words I began, to your words I made the ordinary life also. And therefore, Yereyecha Yeruni. But then in Pasuk Ayin Hey, all of a sudden the mood changes. The Pasuk doesn't spell it out, but between the lines is the story with Bathsheba. And then the Oynish, the Gemara says David Melech was punished. He lost 4 children because of Bathsheba. He became a Metzeda because of Bathsheba, and on and on and on. Said the Pasuk, Yadaiti Adonai, Ki Tzedek Mishpatecha ve'amunah nisan. I know God Almighty, Ki Tzedek Mishpatecha, your judgment is righteous. Ve'amunah nisani, and if you torture me, it's Amunah. Amunah means it's the truth. The truth means it's not more and it's not less. It's not to benefit one, it's not to benefit another. It's the truth. And it's the best thing. If it's the truth, it's the best for the world. And of course, he uses the word tzedek mishpatecha. And of course, we all know the Chazal. Tzedek hadin, right? You're supposed to say dayan emes. Shabbos, we say sidkoscha tzedek. You have to accept the judgment of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedek hadin is a psukim that you say by a levaya. And it begins with the psukim in Pachas Ha'azinu that indicate that the Eibishter's judgment is righteous. And that's the meaning of the word tzedek mishpatecha. The judgment, the gevuras that the Eibishter disposes towards David HaMelech because of this Aveda is tzedek. And the inuyim, the suffering, is emunah. Emunah means it's emes. No leaning, not this way and not this way. People have a tendency sometimes to be overly kind. And on the other hand, when people decide that it's time to punish, they become overly cruel. And the Eibishter's life, existence, Bechlal, and Eibishter's Inuyim, especially, are Emunah. And he continues, I plead with you that your kindness should be L'Nachamen, to be my consolation. And of course, Nechama means consolation. Nechama also means change of heart. Nechama means tshuva. Nechama means regret. Nechama means return. From David HaMelech's side, that he should be Noichem al what he did, and of course, the Eibishter should also be Menachem. Ki imirascha, like your word, la'avdecha, to your servant, and the Mepharshim said to Nasan HaNavi. Beklal, the Eibishter said that the Pesach Dar L'Doivkei B'Shuva, the Eibishter created an entrance. That I'll say, why does the world create it open on one side that the person can always do tshuva? The Eibishter made that a yid can always do tshuva. Ein lach dav b'fnei tshuva. Even the Gemara that says tshuva v'anim shavaim chutz miyachad, the Chazal also say dochak hashav v'nichnas ein lach davar ha'emet b'fnei tshuva. And that's what David HaMelech speaks to. Your kindness. And the kindness of tshuva, like your words, la'avdecha, you could say it means to Nasan and Avi, it also means to Moshe Rabbeinu, to Avraham Avinu, the Yid, you always do tshuva. Like it says in Sfarim, it says in Rishonim, that the Eibush made 3 brises with the world. He made a bris with Noach, for Teva, Eid, Kol Yimei Ha'aretz, Zeta, V'kotza, V'kel, V'chei, V'kayz, V'chedev, V'yem V'al, Leish, Beisu. He made a krisis bris with Avraham Avinu for Torah mitzvahs, and he made a krisis bris with Moshe Rabbeinu for tshuva. And that's the meaning of the words, as you spoke to your servant, that you can always do tshuva. You should bring me your kindness, your compassion, and give me back my life, which I forfeited because of the Inyan Leitay, which I had done. My only interest is to delight in your Torah. I have no other interest. Now, ki can mean because. I'm entitled to this tchias hamesim, this opportunity to serve Hashem again, because my whole life is Torah, or because it's the only thing that interests me. The only thing that matters to me is Teras Shoiti, and therefore nothing is going to give me meaning except Rachamecha ve'echya. Meaning to say, David HaMelech was a king, a man of great success, a great power. He had many, many wonderful milas, in spite of the fact that he had made a mistake. But David says, those milas are meaningless to me if I don't have this mila, Teras Shoiti, which expresses itself in Rachamim ve'echya, associated with David HaMelech's Shashua, David's pleasure, which is the Torah. And the Pasuk Einchai says, Yeveshu Zayd, the sinners should be embarrassed. Kisheket of Sunni. They have falsely made me into a sinner. Now, I'm a sinner. I'm not denying it. But their interest is not my sin and my need to do tshuva. Their interest is to stand on my head and somehow they're going to be higher. Sheket of Sunni. The sheket that they're accusing me of is dishonest. And the tefillah, the way you have to understand tefillah is, he's not saying that Hashem should punish them. Hashem is saying that when a person serves the Eibishter and he's less than honest, the end is busha. If a person serves the Eibishter and he's completely honest, the end is not busha. And even a person who has done an aveda, ein loch davar, a person can always do tshuva. Like I saw a film of the Rebbe, where people came to the Rebbe. And the Rebbe said a person can do tshuva and he becomes a new person, as long as it's metanemes. And otherwise there's a busha. And that's what David speaks to the Zaydim who are trying to be mischabed b'kloini. And the problem with people who are mischabed b'kloini chaveda, they're trying to exploit David HaMelech's weakness to their advantage, is not only that they're being disingenuous, they're claiming that they're big tzaddikim, and they're worried about principle and right and wrong and righteousness, when in reality they're just enjoying somebody else's foibles. But there's a deeper thing. David is afraid that these people are going to cause David himself to surrender his midas ha'emes. When people come and they expose you as tzavua, as disingenuous, and you want to be emes, they make it even harder to be emes. And that's the real concern that David HaMelech has, that the busha that they're bringing to me is going to bring, in the end, is going to get me to compromise myself. And therefore he says, Yeveshu Zaydim, Ani asliach b'fukadecha. I'm going to speak in your mitzvahs, and I'm going to remain loyal to HaKadosh Baruch Hu until Yeshuvu L'Yiriyach. My only measure, my barometer, my proof that my tshuva is real and that my avodas Hashem is real, as Yeshuvu L'Yiriyach, the people who are truly God-fearing, who you can't buy off. You cannot. They're not disingenuous. They're not echad bepev echad belev. They don't have an interest. They're not mischabed b'kloin chaveda. They're truly God-fearing. If they return to me, then I know that my tshuva is matanis. Those who know the edus of the Eibush at a level of das. And then subsequent to that, or along with that, my heart should be sincere, simple, whole with your mitzvahs. I should never have any busha. And again, the way I'm understanding the Laman le'evish is when you're around people who are dishonest. In avodas Hashem, a person's a ganav, he's a ganav. When a person is very righteous, and there's a lack of emes in that avodas Hashem, you tend to think that this is something you can do as well. And this is what I think is David's real fear. It's not that David is afraid that they're going to expose him and embarrass him. They did that already. It's that their heipach ha'emes is going to trigger in David a heipach ha'emes. And David wants Laman le'evish. He should never be not honest, even though he didn't have Aveda, but he can do tshuva. The Hilibi Samim bechukecha. And that's really David HaMelech's concern in these 8 Pesukim, that he should do tshuva. And of course, the Eibush should accept his tshuva and forgive him, but that he should not allow those people who are mischabed b'kloinei, who are celebrating his weakness and creating covet for themselves in the shame of David HaMelech, he shouldn't become like them, because that'll be a real busha, it'll be a real shame for David HaMelech. This is the Pesukim. I just read the 8 Pesukim from the Tilim. And I suppose you can say on some level I already gave you the whole shir, but let me now slow down and talk you through this whole thing. Uba'akdama. Part of the reason I'm so late is I went to look for certain sources. I wanted to see certain things inside. And sometimes when you're looking for a needle in a haystack, it takes a while. You got to sift through a lot of hay till you find a needle. And I had pretty good success this morning looking for Mokoides of things that I had seen years and years ago in different Sforim or different Gemaras. I can't say I found every Gemara that I was looking for, but I found many of them. But one of the things that I was looking for this morning that I actually found is the following. Of Nissen Nemenov, the great chassid of Nissen. He was an unbelievable Ovid. He was an unbelievable Ovid. He really was extraordinary. You know, people say that all the best people died in the war and the people who survived were of a lesser caliber. Reb Nissen was the best. In his kav, he was the best. In the kav of Kabbalah, Sela Yidi was the best. Reb Nissen went to the Rebbe Tishrei Tafshin Tezvav. I heard this from my father-in-law. He was the Rebbe 3 Tishrei Tafshin Tezvav, Tafshin Yudzayin, Tafshin Yudzayin, 1954, 56, 58. Then the Rebbe told him not to come Tishrei anymore because it has to be yeshiva. And he came for other occasions. He came for Yudchat, he came for Yudtas Kislev, Pesach. The kid said, Reb Nissen, when Reb Nissen went to the Rebbe, I heard this from a number of people. You knew weeks before that he was going. Weeks before he was in a different state. First of all, he almost didn't go to sleep. You'd see his light on in his office till 5, 6 in the morning. He would sleep very little. And you saw that this year is getting ready to for that. But the Bacharim, I heard this one of his Talmidim, looked forward to his trips to the Rebbe because when he would leave, the mashmas in yeshiva would drop. You could make more trouble. You could miss more seder. You could because if Nissen was feared. There was a yiras. It was pachat apachad of him, and it was a yiras harememus. But and he gave you notice. He didn't tell the Bacham was going to the Rebbe because it was supposed to be a secret, so the Bacham shouldn't have chance to prepare the trouble they were getting into when he was gone. But you could see in his anhaga he was going to the Rebbe. You would see that the Yid heard of it weeks before he went to the Rebbe. He worked even harder, not like otherwise he didn't work hard, but he would work even harder. And his first trip was Tishrei Tafshin Tezvav, and someone recorded that he said, it says the name in the Sefer Kalman's, I think, that before he went on that trip, so first I looked in the Sefer of Yisrael Neville and I didn't find it there. So I looked in the Sefer of Nissen and I found it. It's on page 264. That Reb Nissen said that Rabbi Shofak Zognazeh starts say Pesukim. Now I thought he quotes the whole of each Pesukim, but it's not the case. He quotes one part of one pasuk, another part of one. It says Yerech is in the Kumtzim Gain some Rebbe. A Yid comes from Russia. Hasn't seen the Rebbe in 20 years, 25 years, right? If he's going to the Friedrich Rebbe, he hadn't seen the Rebbe in 20 years. Coming to the Rebbe, hasn't seen the Rebbe in 25 years or more. But you're going to the Rebbe. Those who fear God, that means the Rebbe. Yeruni should see me, and they should delight in my presence. And then Rebbe Yisrael never said, and if not, at least al yevei should be kevecha. That those tzaddikim were a madrega of kevecha, that they lived their whole metzias in the kivev HaKadosh Baruch Hu should not be ashamed of it. So I have to look up it's not hard to find today with the Korkandansi, it's easy to find. It's the first half of one pasuk and the second half of another pasuk, but it's two madregas. The higher madregas said Rabbi Sol Nevle and Rabbi Nisna says Gechazet Yerecha, those who fear God, which is the tzaddikim, the Rebbe, Yeruni v'Yismachu should be happy to see me, and if not this, Lochala Pochas Ayevei should be Kavach. Why am I telling this story? Because according to this Maaseh in the Gemara, Yerecha goes on the Sanhedrin, and the Vart is the Sanhedrin had emes. More emes than Achitofel, more emes than Doyek, who are called Zaydim. And David HaMelech knows that the emes of the Sanhedrin is uncompromisable. They're real people, they serve Hashem, they're L'Shem Shamayim in every Hanhoga, and they were delighted to see David HaMelech. David HaMelech Yisrael. He was as the Gemara describes David HaMelech in a number of places in Masechta Brachas, he was a king, and he was not able to show his choice. His whole life was Mesiras Nefesh for the Avodas Hashem. And the Yereyecha, the Sanhedrin, saw a king who doesn't sleep. At midnight he sings Shiras Shbachas HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The whole day he passes Shilas. And he doesn't have an opportunity to enjoy the Ma'azah Filik Etzbaktana. They saw such a person, Yereyecha Yeruni v'Yismachu. Sanhedrin saw David HaMelech, and they're the true Yerei Shamayim. They're the true parameter of serious Yidden who serve Hashem mit emes. And they saw David HaMelech and they delighted. And then the Gemara says they left him. They left him when he became a Metzayda. As a result of Bashev, David was a Metzayda. And David is beside himself. He's not beside himself because the Sanhedrin left him. Because he earned that himself. He's beside himself why they left. Because they saw a Yid who has every nisayon. David HaMelech was Adoimi. He was gorgeous, and he was talented, and he was powerful, and he was gifted, and he was rich, and he was successful, and he really had absolute power, and yet he wasn't corrupt. And then at one point they see corruption, and they abandon him. And David HaMelech's only request is Yeshuva L'Yireach, that those who've abandoned me, the Yirei Shamayim, which is the Rosh Sanhedrin, should return to me, not because he needed political support, but because that would be a sign that his avodah and his tshuva had an emes to it. So if you add this word for this whole nevle, which of this chazan Yirei means the Rebbe, it's not Stam Hazei the Sanhedrin, it's literally the Nasi of the Sanhedrin, the Nasi Hador, or the Navi Hador, which is basically the same thing in Halacha, in Chazal, in history, that David HaMelech says Yireyecha goes on the Rebbe, the Tzaddik, the Nasi Hador. And when David HaMelech's life begins, the Nasi Hador, Yireyecha, Yireuni, Yireyecha v'yismach. And then they abandon him. And he prays to Hashem Yeshuvu L'Yireyecha. Not because, like I said, he needs the political connections, but because that's a test. That's a measure of the emes of his tshuva. And that's what's going on in this Kapital, in this Pasuk. Now, as I mentioned to you, these 8 Pesukim seem to revolve around the story of Bathsheba. And I must say about the story of Bathsheba the following. There's 2 sides of the story of Bathsheba. One side of the story of Bathsheba is that the Gemara says, if somebody says David Melech actually didn't evade it, Bathsheba, he's a sinner. This is a technical Indian because she was a divorcee. She was divorced. Halachically, based on the Gemara says, the case of the she wasn't married at the time, and the Aved of Eshes, he wasn't Aved. The Chazal say that the Zaydim, these scoffers, used to come to him to make fun of David HaMelech and say, with the whole sincerity, if a person is Rachman al-Itzlan, Boyle Eshes, what's his Einish? And they did it simply to undermine David HaMelech. They wanted to agitate him, they wanted to embarrass him, and probably more than anything else, was they wanted to get him to become compromised like they were. That if he would become compromised like them, somehow they'd sleep better at night. And that's what he's davening to. He's not davening to punish them. He's davening that he should do tshuva and remain the same tamim that he was before he did this aved. So the Gemara says on the one hand, somebody says David Melech didn't evade Bathsheba. It's a mistake. And the Chazal say she was like a grusha, but nevertheless there was an ephraim. There was something inexact about David Melech and Hagar. But then there's another Gemara, and this one is even stronger. But the second Gemara says, this is the Gemara in Masechet Avodah Zarah. The Gemara says it's impossible to explain how the Jewish people made a golden calf, and it's impossible to explain how David HaMelech did the Avedi with Bathsheba. And the only Hasbara is that the Eibishter, so to speak, the famous lashon that the Rebbe always brings, Neira Lila B'nei Yadam, he sort of got the Jewish people to make the sin of the golden calf. That have a community, a whole group of people do Avedis, they could learn from the data of the Maisa Egel that they can do tshuva. And the Eibishter made David HaMelech do the Maisa of Bathsheba, even though Be'emes he was completely above such an Indian, that if a Yochid does an Avedish, but left for David HaMelech, then you're not tshuva. So the Gemara says that David really had no tendency to such an Aveda because of his personality, because of his Nefesh HaBahamis. The Eibishter brought it on him. Why did Hashem bring this sin upon him? Really to teach how to do tshuva. The Gemara says, based on the pasuk, the same Gemara in Avodah Zarah, the David ben Yishai, the Hagever, Hukam also on the word Hukam all, the Gemara says Hukam Oila Shel Tshuva. The Rebbe brings the Samach Vav Hukam Oila Shel Teira, which is a rare and obscure medrash. But Hukam Oila Shel Tshuva is a Gemara Mefareshes. But David HaMelech taught the world how to do tshuva. Because he didn't Aveda, and then he had to do tshuva, and he did tshuva, and he was Mekabel tshuva. Which Kapital Tilim is David HaMelech's tshuva? This is Perek Nun Aleph. On the Seich Mizvah Devoi, that David HaMelech is doing tshuva. And you see how gut-wrenching David HaMelech spills his guts in his doing tshuva. The last thing on his mind is that he's going to be embarrassed. All he is concerned with is that the Eibush should be Makabel his tshuva, and that he should serve Hashem et hanemes, and that the busha, that the zaydim are bringing upon him, should not result in him achieving real busha, which is that he should not care about midas ha'emes, and he should become phony like they are. So this is one side of the coin. That David HaMelech, one side of the coin is that David HaMelech really, so to speak, can't be held accountable for this Aveda. The Eibishter, so to speak, I mean, Aviv Maken Zogen, brought the Aveda onto him. The Eibishter, so to speak, led David HaMelech into this Maimid Matziv, so that David HaMelech should be able to teach us how to do tshuva. That's one side of the coin. And of course, the other side of the coin is the bottom line, is David HaMelech the tshuva. Whether the Eibishter made him do it, or he chose to do it, or it's probably a combination. The bottom line, he did an Aveda, and he's doing tshuva. And he's doing tshuva with his own neshama. And like I keep on saying, that when a person wants to do tshuva, the worst thing is a scoffer. B'chlal, the worst thing is a scoffer. In life, people who make fun of people who are sincere and dedicated to principle and to ideal make it very, very difficult for them. But especially when you're a sinner. Who are you? Oh, a ganze tzaddik. Yesterday you were shaychas to kach v'kach, and now you're going to be nichnas b'chtas shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's why it says that you're not allowed to remind about tshuva of his aveinus. The Rambam speaks about the hilchos tshuva. You're not allowed to remind a sinner of his aveinus that he shaynim his earlier sins. And the Rambam describes b'yorei kama kecha shel tshuva. Yesterday he was in such and such a ma'amid matzav, and now he's completely transformed. He's the Eibishter's Yedid and all the rest. And these Zaydim cannot take this, and their whole life is dedicated to, so to speak, steal some of the midas emes and the tshuva of David HaMelech. And that's what David is concerned with when he reaches out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in these Pesukim, and he says, my only barometer is real people, the Yereyecha, the Rebbe, the Nasi, the Sanhedrin, Anoshim Amitim. They're going to be the measure whether my tshuva is emes, my avodas Hashem is emes. What about the Zaydim? That's their department. You know, the Rebbe brings in Tanya Perikov Hey. Shimon ben Geda curses David HaMelech, and the Navi says the fact that David HaMelech got a clover, Shimon ben Geda, this came from the Eibush that he had coming to him. But Shimon ben Geda did not have to be the one to do it, and he's punished al re'ah bechiraseh for his evil choice. So there are these Zaydim, there are these people who are great scholars, very intelligent, and outwardly very religious, and that David calls them over and over again Zaydim. I think this is the third time he calls them Zaydim. Their whole interest is taking away a little bit of the midas emes and the tmimus, which is represented by David HaMelech. And there's no better opportunity for them to steal this David HaMelech when it comes to David HaMelech's Aveda. And as far as they're concerned, as far as David HaMelech is concerned, the Eibishter made these Zaydim to embarrass David HaMelech. They legabi themselves, so they're going to have to deal with that themselves. David's prayer is not that the Zaydim should be punished, or the Zaydim should lose. Is that the Zaydim shouldn't win. The Zaydim should not succeed in, so to speak, pushing David HaMelech in a direction of Heipech HaKenus and Heipech HaTmimus and Heipech HaEmes. And this is what he's davening. Because, as I mentioned to you before, when David did this Aveda, he became a Metzeder, he became a leper for 6 months, and the Sanhedrin abandoned him. And even though the Gemara says, number one, they didn't do an Aveda, and the Gemara also said that there was no Din Shammai, he was punished. He lost 4 of his sons. The Gemara brings the pasuk that he lost 4 of his children. There was a child that died, and then there was Amnon, and then there was Tamar, and then there was, of course, Avshalom. But nevertheless, David HaMelech is doing tshuva. Now let's read the 8 Pesukim and touch them. And it's going to go very quick. In other words, the introduction sort of set the stage. It opened up the whole discussion. And again, if I'm not incorrect, the key word in today's 8 Pesukim, Kapital, Pasuk Ayin Gimel, till Pasuk Pei, is Yereyecha. Yereyecha means a Jew who was so God-fearing that he's a barometer for emes. And in the beginning, David HaMelech says, Yerecha Yeruni v'yismachu. At the end, he's praying, Yeshuvu Yereyecha. Let's read it inside. Yadecha Asuni, your hands made me. The Eibishter made me with his hands. Right? The Eibishter created the whole world with words, with dibur, as they state in Chumash. When it get to Adam Arishon, it says, "Vayishtad Hashem Elokim es Adam offer minhu Adama." There was a special involvement of the Eibishter in creating Adam Arishon. Now, I don't know if this is exactly the same thing, but David HaMelech says the Eibishter made me with both of his hands. And of course, the Chazal say the Eibishter made the whole world with one hand. And the Beis Hamikdash is Mikdash Adnei Ken Yodech, and the Beis Hamikdash is made with both hands. David HaMelech says about himself, Yadecha Asuni, the Eibishter made me with both hands. In other words, David HaMelech himself is the Madreg of the Beis HaMikdash. Asuni, he made me, and he forced me into existence. Vayechuneni. Vayecheneneni. What's the Lashon HaPasuk? Yedecha Asuni. Vayechenenuni. Vayechenenuni. And he made me a proper keli with all the brachas that a person could have. The Radak lists all the unbelievable milas that a human being has. He has a heart, and he has a mind, and the power of speech, and he has sound that comes from the lungs, has the ability to create different sounds from the tongue, and from the lips, and from the teeth, and from the palate, and all the other faculties that separate a human being from an animal. The Eibush made me to be human, and not human style, but human like David HaMelech was. Havineni, you gave me the ability to understand. The Elmodah mitzvah, you gave me the ability to learn and do your mitzvahs, and I've done it. And so to speak, and say in English, it hasn't gone to my head. Even though David HaMelech was David Melech Yisrael Chavakayim, he was very powerful, and the expression of the world is power corrupt, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Nevertheless, David HaMelech and some of his descendants, many of his descendants, who were Malchei Yehuda, were Kshedim and Tzadikim, which if you understand the nature of power, is incredibly great. And of course, the greatest of all of them was David HaMelech himself. His humility and his brokenness and his dedication to emes, even though he was so gifted and so talented and so great in so many ways, which could have enhanced his ego and made him into sheked, he was emes. And therefore, Pasuk Ayin Dal says, Yerecha Yeruni, those who fear you saw me, v'yismachon, they delighted, they rejoiced. Biklau, when real people meet politicians, have to hold their nose. The Rebbe said once, diplomatia is haste checker. A diplomat means a liar. And the Rebbe said, if the diplomat says the truth, how is he going to negotiate? He has to tell a lie and then negotiate and go back to the truth. A politician is a diplomat. David HaMelech was a politician, was a melech. And nevertheless, Yereyecha, Yidden who are entirely dedicated to Yiddas Hashem, meet David HaMelech, V'yismachon, they rejoice. Here is a Yid, like Yosef HaTzadik, and he's involved in Yichudei law. The Rebbe once said about the Bisol Neach, sitzt in the Rebbe Rashab said about the Bisol Neach, sitzt in Buchalterei und tracht Yichudei law. David HaMelech had gesessen in the Cheder HaMalchus und getracht Yichudei law, and Yereyecha, people who have a Mavinus in Emes, saw a Yid like David HaMelech and they delighted. How could be a king? And nevertheless, he's such a Madreg of Emes. Because my whole life is dedicated to your words. And of course, the word Yecholte, I've told you so many different translations. It means to pray, it means to begin, it means to hope, it means to bring holiness even into the ordinary. And this is the Madreg of David HaMelech. That in spite of the fact that he was so powerful and so successful, he was a Yid whose whole mitzvah was Avodas Hashem, and the measure is Yereyecha Yeruni V'yismach. These people whose whole life is Yiddas Hashem meet me and they delight, they rejoice in such a mitzvah that such a human being can exist. And then you have a mistake. Chet B'Sheva. And like I said before, on the one hand, on the one hand, but on the other hand, he did it. Istakel and so forth. So there's an Avera, and then there was an Einish. So David HaMelech said the Pasuk, Eine gedaiti adonai, ki tzedek mishpatach. Ve'emun is, I know, God Almighty, that your judgment is righteous. And Tzedek Adin, he's makabel the Yisurim of the Eibush to B'Yava. The Eibush to punish him. He lost 4 of his children, which is heartbreaking, David HaMelech. And Tzedek mishpatacha, not Tzaddik with a Yud, which would be for Chsadim, but Tzedek with the Ariyud, which it says in Kabbalah, it says in the Pasuk Yo, is Malchus Dinim. David HaMelech is Mekabel, the judgment of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with the full understanding that the Eibish's judgment is righteous. The Emunah in Isani, and here we're touching in Isani, not like we touched it before the Yigiyah B'Torah in Tess. You see, here's how it works. The phone rings, and until I get up, they keep ringing. When I get up to turn off the ringer, then it stops. Anyway, Baruch Hashem, it stopped. I'm sorry about the disturbance. The Emunah in Isani here means the torture, the painikum, the suffering of David HaMelech, and it was considerable, is Emunah. What Emunah is? Emunah is what you do when you have no Giluyim. When you understand, when you feel, when you're in the mood, you don't have Emunah. Emunah is called katnas. Katnas, when you're underdeveloped, when you're in a spiritually empty state, the only thing you have to fall back on is Emunah. But Amunah is the strongest thing of all because it's a tmimus. And David is saying, in Isani, the torture to give me is Amunah. I don't understand it. Doesn't feel right. Doesn't sit right. But on the level of Amunah, it's emes. I accept it. So in Pasuk Ayin Hey, David is acknowledging what happened. Oisei Maise. Again, without going into the particulars, whether chot or loy chot and his liability. But Yadaiti Hashem ki tzedek mishpatecha ve'amunah in Isani. The challenge is that you're giving me a coming from place of emes. So he accepts tzaddik adin. He accepts the Eibishter's judgment. And then he begs, I beg that you should have enough kindness on me to console me. And I guess consolation of also means charata. Charata means regret, that the Eibishter V'yachol should, after punishing David HaMelech, should be makabel him back, should take him in. Like you spoke to your servant. And I am suggesting that Avdacha, even though the Pashat Avdacha means what Hashem told Nasan HaNavi about David HaMelech when this Maisa occurred. But that Hashem gave Moshe Rabbeinu a promise of Krisus Bris, also not just for Torah and Mitzvah, not Tshuva. I tell you all the time that the Rebbe brings in his letters. The Eibishter gave Goyim Lahavol Sheva Mitzvahs B'nei Neach. And of course, now is the season, now is the time, now is the generation of Sheva Mitzvahs B'nei Neach. And to be sure, the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nei Neach are really many, many more than 7. There's just 7 Leita says. If you look at the Encyclopedia Talmud, it says like 30 or 40 mitzvahs. Kibbut Avayim and Tzedakah and Yecham Avelim and Bikur Chelim and all the rest. That are mitzvahs say, associated with the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nei Neach. And the Rebbe brings in a number of places, Yadua, Shakla, Vatari, the Rebbe says a Shaila in Allah whether a guy can do tshuva. You can be Mekayim Sheva Mitzvahs. And Mekayim Sheva Mitzvahs is a Chelik in Yom Haba. But can he correct a wrong and earn a Chelik in Yom Haba? Because tshuva is a special matana, and arguably he gave it to Yid. Hashem gave us mitzvahs. Lahavdil, Hashem gave Goy mitzvahs also. But that a Yid could do tshuva no matter what. You can always come back and you always re-include the Mechitas Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is a real gift that Hashem gave the Jewish people through Moshe Rabbeinu. And this is his request. The kindness that you have, that you also gave us mitzvahs tshuva, and the opportunity to do tshuva should be my nechama, that I can return to the Shusay Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And it continues the Pasuk Ayin Zayin, Yeviuni Rachamecha. You should bring to me from your compassion the echad that I should come back to life. I should live again, as be a Yid, with all the emes and all the Mesiras Nefesh that was before the Maisa Basheva. Because it's the only thing that really matters to me. Elam Hazeh and my wealth and my power and my children and my wives and my influence is immaterial. The only thing that matters to me is Teirachah. That's my pleasure. And therefore I need that I should be satisfied in the area which matters most to me. And therefore I'm begging. And then it says, the sinners, the wanton sinners should be embarrassed, because they have derailed me with deception. They have turned me off the correct path with their own lies, meaning to say, they've exaggerated what I've done wrong. They are insisting that this Aveda is that I'm a shakran all through and through, I'm a sinner through and through, which is not true. Their kavana is Leila Shem Shamayim. They're not thinking about Hashem, they're not thinking about the Jewish people, they're not thinking about the honor of the Torah. They're thinking about hurting me, because somehow that's going to help them. And their business is their business. The Eibishter wants to punish them, he'll punish them. Doesn't want to punish them, he's not going to punish them. But I don't want to fall into the trap. Not the trap of being embarrassed. The trap of becoming a tzavur, becoming taka, sheker, like they're claiming I am. I'm going to engage in your mitzvahs. And I want to say that a siyach could also mean tefillah. Right? Now, assuming that a siyach means tefillah, you have to understand the word. This isn't Tanya. Now, when a yid daven, says Yitzhak goes to sleep. When he's not daven, Yitzhak is very strong and very robust and very disturbing and so on. But you don't say this about Torah. You don't say that Yid is learning Torah, Yitzhak sleeps. You only say this about Yid who davens. The Gemara speaks about the Rebbe, right? The Alter Rebbe brings the name of Rebbe by Nachmeni. And the Rebbe said, again, and the Alter Rebbe teaches, why did the Rebbe make such a mistake? Because he was mispeini and mispalel. He learned Torah all day long. With Pasuk Puma Megirse. And Rebbe was thinking, maybe I really have a Yitzhak, which is what a Beinani is. My Yitzhak never bothers me because I'm always learning Torah. In other words, Rebbe by Nachmeni's Torah was the Madrega of our tefillah. He didn't stam as he learned in a way which connected him to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the same is here. Ani asiach, I'm going to daven in your mitzvahs. I'm going to learn Torah and do mitzvahs on a level of iskasha. So let's connect me to the Eibishter. That's the only shmir I have against these zaydim, not just shmiring me. They're doing that anyway. But making me into the shmir, bringing me down through their efforts. Until Yashuvu li yireyacha. Those who fear you, which goes on the tzaddik, the Rebbe, the Nasi Adar, or again in the Chazal goes on the Sanhedrin, who left me when I became a mitzvah. And who could blame them? And they should see my tshuva, and they should see my Torah and mitzvahs, and they should come back to me. And those who know your witnesses are also a madrega, very great chassidim. This Yedei means that the mitzvah is not only a level of being, it's a level of das, as an internalization aspect. And David says, when these people will be makabel me again, in other words, I'll know that my tshuva was accepted, that my tshuva is emes, then I'll know that I'm serving Hashem as I'm supposed to. The famous story of the Baal Shem Tov, which is brought before Lakan's Maises. My father read it to us on Gesundsein about the Shabbos years and years and years ago, that the Baal Shem Tov traveled on a Sunday. It's a whole long story that he had one of his Talmidim always traveled with him. And before the Baal Shem Tov passed away, the Baal Shem Tov said to this person, you should travel around telling stories. And wherever you go, tell stories about the Baal Shem Tov. And there'll be a time when you'll get a simon that you'll know that you could stop. I think his name was Rabbi Yankiv. So he traveled and he told stories about Hashem. People gave him a penny, half a penny. He was broke. Then he heard that very far away, it's in Romania, there's a Yid who pays a lot of money for a story about Hashem that he hasn't heard yet. So he went to this Yid and he showed up on a Wednesday and the Yid was very happy to see him. He says he heard about him and he gave him a beautiful room in his beautiful estate. Gave him ganz covered. A kid said, comes Shabbos, he invites the whole town. And on Friday night, he forgets every single story. And he's so embarrassed. He apologizes. I want you to know I'm not a liar. I'm not Yevesach. I'm not Yeveshu Zaydim Kishekir Suni. It's not like I'm a phony. I told you the truth. I'm Taka Talmud the Baal Shem Tov. And I traveled with the Baal Shem Tov. And I had many stories about Shem Tov. Right now, my wine went blank. So, okay, to be tomorrow by Shabbos lunch. And Tachava. Shabbos lunch, again, he forgot every story. Then again, Shalashudis. And again, Malamalki. And he was running away from this man's house in Taka in Busha. Yeveshu Zaydim. Kishekir Suni. And then he remembered one story. And he told a famous story that there was a place where there was a Galach who was a big anti-Semite, and he would rally Goyim to kill Yidden. He was actually a Jewish child who was a boy, was orphaned, and the Yidden treated him terribly. They treated him cruelly, and he spent his life taking the Kama. The Baal Shem Tov came there on a Sunday morning when he was going to preach, and he sent me, said this Rabbi Yankiv, that I should go in the middle of his speech and call him. And he came to the Baal Shem Tov, and the Baal Shem Tov brought him back to Tshuva. He says this Baal Shem Tov and this man spent 4 hours in a room that he left, we never saw. When he finished telling the story, the Geviyah, the Balawai, stood up. He says, Moedav Rabbi, I want to make an admission, he says, I'm that graf, I'm that man. I'm a Jewish boy who was treated very cruelly by my community, and I dedicated my life to hurting Jews, and the Baal Shem Tov brought me back to Tshuva. I said to the Baal Shem Tov, how can a person like I do tshuva? How is it possible? The Baal Shem Tov said, when somebody comes along and tells you your story, you'll know your tshuva was accepted. So he turns to this Rabbi Yankiv and he says, when you came, I recognized you. And I was thinking, is the same my tshuva was, and when you forgot the stories, you thought that it was on you, and it was on me. So he says, that much last night, I didn't sleep a whole night, I was doing tshuva. And Shabbos lunch, when you didn't remember the stories, Vaita Bagitan Tshuva. And Shudas, when you didn't remember any stories, I was again doing Tshuva. He says, until you remember the story, because you remembering the story is that my Tshuva was Niskabel. David HaMelech's parameter is Yashuvu L'Yireyach. Real people, Yirei Shamayim. And ultimately, like I said to the word from Chassidim, that it means Pasha the Rebbe returns, accepts, embraces a Yid again, then he knows that his Tshuva was accepted. I'm going to tell you a story without any names. A Yid I know, who told me in the last few months, I'm waiting in the Kazakh. His father was very close to the Rebbe. His father was incredibly close to the Rebbe. And his father made mistakes. If you can work with the Rebbe, you're going to make mistakes. And apparently some of the mistakes his father made were considerable. He told me, Bazeh Alosh, my father could do no wrong by the Rebbe. He said, things my father did, my father couldn't understand why he doesn't kick me out. He says, my father could do no wrong. It was more than a Yashuvu L'Yireyach. It's Loyazvu L'Yireyach. He had such a special relationship with the Rebbe. He really was one of the greatest Chassidim of our time, and the greatest Askonim. This is what his son told me. My father could do no wrong. And David HaMelech is saying the raya that my tshuva is metanemes. Not only that I was forgiven, but that it's metanemes is the yeshiva l'iriyah. And he finishes with a prayer, Yehi libi tamim b'chukach. My heart should remain sincere, simple in your mitzvahs. And of course, you all know how it says in Chazal, what's made the word tamim tiyem Hashem alekecha? No thinking about it, no analyzing it, no figuring it out, just as a simple person. L'man le'evish, I should never have shame. And of course, what shame means, on the Gemara, Masech Kedushin, that one of the Amiroyim was going to do an Aveda. And he started to scream fire. And people came running, and they caught him about to do an Aveda. And he said, Rebbe, you're about to do an Aveda, you're screaming fire. He says, I'd much rather embarrass myself to you than embarrass myself over there. So Gemara Mefureshes, in the end of Masech Kedushin, in the Sugya of Yichud, there's a sugya, the last couple of pages of Masech Kedushin talk about the Isra of Yichud, and a man and a woman not allowed to be alone. And there's stories over there about Tanoim and Amiroyim and their nisyonis. And this is, of course, a hero to all of us about, we have to be careful and not say I'm smarter than the Torah. And one of them was going to do an Aved. He started screaming fire. And they said to him, you're embarrassing yourself. He says, really, this is much better. I'd be embarrassed here than be embarrassed there. And that's what David says, Laman le'yevish. The busha should not be metanemes. It should be falsha busha. In other words, busha because of chesenes that I'm able to correct, rather than to become a person who's an embarrassment. Okay, this is the teichen of these 8 pesukim. Kufya Tes, I told you when we started this, David HaMelech celebrating Torah and mitzvahs, Yiddishkeit. Here I have to say, he's not celebrating Yiddishkeit, he's celebrating tshuva. And it's even more than that. It's not just celebrating tshuva, he's doing tshuva. In other words, in these 8 pesukim, you don't hear David HaMelech reveling in being a Yid. You see David HaMelech struggling in being a Yid. And wanting to remain loyal to HaKadosh Baruch Hu metanemes, with the Mesiras Nefesh. And I'll continue tomorrow, Mitzvah. Hopefully we'll do Eis Chof.